and welcome to UAT Time within the United Countries Special by First Ukraine. You can find us on the frequencies available on our website, firstua.com. I'm Sergey Velichanskiy.
And I am Olivier Vedrine. UAT Time is dedicated to bring Ukraine and Europe closer to each other by introducing the real Ukraine to the rest of the world.
As the strive for changes in society rises, there appear civil movements to help the government institutions stay focused and make sure the declarations are being fulfilled.
Our guest today is Alexander Khara, representative of Maidan of Foreign Affairs.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us for a cup of tea.
Pleasure to be here.
First of all, we know that the Maidan of Foreign Affairs was born during the revolution. Well, we'll talk about this a little more, but what were you doing, what did you do before?
I'm former Ukrainian diplomat, and I spent almost 13 years of my life in the foreign service. I worked as a foreign minister then in our embassy in Olivier for 3 years, and then I returned back to Kiev to serve with the National Security Defense Council. So I'm all the time I've been focusing on my efforts on foreign affairs and security affairs as well.
Okay, so it was not just an idea that is not backed up with experience, basically. It's good to know. So you were involved with Maidan.
From the beginning, yeah. It began actually from the brutal beating of our students, of our friends and kids, and certainly each and every citizen of this country reacted in the proper manner. It was outrage. We decided to do something, and certainly first reaction was to pour on the streets and to show the protests against such a brutal activity. Because if you don't stop authorities of such things, the next time they will shoot you with no warrant, with no court decision, whatever. So that's why we decided to take some actions. And actually, Maidan of Foreign Affairs was organized by my long-standing friend and former Ukrainian diplomat Bogdan Yeremenko, who made a comment at Facebook claiming that such an action could be called as fascism. And that's why he was dismissed from his post in Istanbul. He was the Consul General of Ukraine to Istanbul and returned back to Kiev. And we met, we decided that we need to do something in our field to show that there is a different perspective for Ukraine, not the Euro-Asian, not the brutal Asian way, but the European one. That's why we decided to create such an organization to advocate European integration, to advocate Euro-Atlantic integration, and to show the different alternative foreign policy to what we have seen from the side of Yanukovych.
Basically, the NGO, Maidan of Foreign Affairs, as you said, you are pretty much right there on the side of Euro integration. You're monitoring what is happening in Ukraine so they don't forget what was the purpose for the Euro Maidan, right? Is that kind of in a nutshell?
Actually, it was in the beginning. We've got a bunch of absolutely amazing organizations and people who are dealing with European integration and joining of Ukraine into NATO. That's why we decided to focus on some gaps that our government is not doing or the civil society is not covering. We've got a unique experience of being on the other side, I mean, of the governmental side. Each of us worked at different agencies, from administration, president, cabinet of minister, foreign ministry, foreign intelligence service, and some other organizations. And that's why we decided to focus what we do the best. We were one of the first organizations who raised the question of the need to work out a strategy of regaining Crimea. And we've done this. So we've got a paper with a recommendation to the government, to the civil society, what to do with this, how to deal with Russia, how to regain Crimea back. Then we
So is there a step-by-step plan how to regain Crimea?
Yeah, sure. We've got a sketch of a plan. Okay. Certainly, it depends on the ability of the government to focus on this, because there are three things combined could make a difference. It's ideas, then resources, and institutions. Mm-hmm. So far, unfortunately, we haven't seen much appetite of the government to regain Crimea back. we still trade with the occupation forces in Crimea. It's nonsense, but we have free trade agreement or free trade zone inside occupied Crimea that allows the big businesses of Ukraine, or Ukrainian oligarchs, to trade and to supply food, for example, for occupation force 40,000 strong. It's ridiculous, but we still have it in place. From the other hand, there are some civil rights that were denied from our friends and citizens who moved out of Crimea. In our organization, we got two gentlemen, one the chief editor of the Black Sea News Agency, and the other one was deputy dean of the Trade University. They were forced to leave Crimea because of their political beliefs, and now they're trying to do something here. And in fact, they are denied to have a banking account in Ukraine just because of the law of free trade zone in Crimea. So big businesses are pretty safe and they can trade, make profit, and regular people are just not so fortunate to have such advantages of.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's a fact. And yeah,
Olivier, how did you get across the Maidan of Foreign Affairs? What?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. Because of my activities during Maidan.
Okay.
Because during Maidan, you know, I was with a lot of peoples, and I was with Ruslana, and I know very well Ruslana and her husband and a lot of friends of Ruslana, and one of her friends say, please, I want to invite you to meet Maidan Foreign Affairs, and maybe they can help you to do your report also about Ukraine. And I say, okay, and that's why we met. But at the beginning, this is a result of my implication and my activity on Maidan, Euro-Maidan revolution.
Okay, okay.
No.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of different questions that we have and want to ask, but one of the urgent questions that is coming up is the elections in October. What do you think about what is going to happen and how things are going to turn out?
Well, there is no need to be a political expert, and I'm not an expert in domestic affairs, but it's obviously that we missed a point of lustration. Unfortunately, our Verkhovna Rada has not voted in the first place to lustrate itself. And that's why it caused other troubles as the new law on local elections, where the big parties or parties supported by oligarchs and other influential circles will have the much gain of these elections. Unfortunately, small parties, and especially those who appeared after Maidan, are not so lucky to enjoy this possibility to get into the power. That's why it's not promising that this election will bring to us. Secondly, so we've got, in comparison to Russia, we've got free media. But unfortunately, our media is divided between those who has gain in it. I mean, the oligarchs, and that's why those small parties will not be able to propagate their ideas and to get into the local councils and local administrations. These elections will be much more democratic than it was before, but unfortunately not at that level that we wanted on Maidan.
But do you believe in the elections in the occupied territories?
I think that it's not necessary. No, it's not necessary. It's necessary not to hold such elections on the occupied territories, even on those territories that have been freed from Russian occupants, because. I was born in, I lived half of my life in Donetsk, so I'm from that region. I know the mentality of the region. I know all political forces there. Unfortunately, for this year and a half, there has been no real work, hard work, trying to win hearts and minds of these people. all local authorities, and predominantly all local authorities on the level of cities and smaller villages, are from the party of region or previous forces that brought this country to the brink of war, to the brink of fall, actually. So there is a huge danger of these forces to get back the power. And certainly Russia will work with all its efforts to propagate the ideas of peace. And behind this peace, there will be idea to give the votes to those forces, pro-Russian forces on this territory. So I believe that until after there is an effective control of whole Donbass, until after there is an Ukrainian media coverage of each and every corner of Donbass, until after we got our security forces, militia first and foremost, and then Ukrainian legislative system, I mean the court system in place. There is no possibility to hold truly democratic and free elections with the possibility of involvement in activities of the pro-Ukrainian parties, because I could not imagine how it's possible to guarantee security on this territory, even though we know that there are some special forces, Russian special forces operating on our territory.
I want to talk also not only about Donbass, but also about the rest of Ukraine. What do you think about the manipulation, propaganda, influence of Russia in the rest of Ukraine, the free Ukraine, and what you think about the result, the consequences of this influence and manipulation in the election of October? Do you think we can have other way of separatism in Ukraine?
Donbass is not, and Crimea is not a case of separatism. It was aggression, the military aggression, which was covered under sort of separatism.
Of course.
And there is no real ground for separatism in other parts of Ukraine, except if we accept the changes to constitution and we will shift the power, or we shift the balance of power for one regions in expense of others. So the real trouble could be caused by the constitutional changes that proposed by the president. And that's why the civil society and activists are against it. And we've seen, unfortunately, we've seen such a drama on the square before the parliament. But it was not just the fault of this gentleman who threw a grenade into the police forces. Certainly he should be, if he is pledged guilty, he should be sentenced, but the real ground for such an action was the constitutional, the way how the constitutional change is being enforced, and the essence of constitutional changes. And I believe that we need to change it, to change the constitution in different way, with broader public discussion, with broader involvement of the Constitutional Commission, with broader involvement of the activists and those who love this country, not from the Moscow, not from other cities, including Washington or Brussels. So it's up to Ukrainians to decide the new balance between the power, government, civil society, and businesses. This is the most important thing in constitution, not providing the special status for occupied territory.
I am totally agree with you, because we talked about that before. For me, Maidan was a revolution for Ukraine. That began with Europe, with this non-signature of the agreement, but very quickly that was a revolution for Ukraine. And I have, a bad mood about something. Why a lot of Ukrainians are not proud of their own history and of their own country? Because a lot of them, they are waiting something from abroad, help from Washington, help from Brussels, and some of them help from Moscow. You are Ukrainian, from Ukraine. You have the forces and all the legitimate history to do what you want. And for me now, we are on the crossroad. I think the Ukrainian society has to cut from the post-Soviet system, but also has to come back in their own interest. And I am totally agree with you when you say Ukraine has not to wait from Washington, from Brussels, even from Moscow. They have to wait from the Ukrainian civil society. And for me, this is the key point of this political crisis in Ukraine now. You have to be proud of you, and you have to wait in your own forces the way to change your country. And I am pro-European. I am pro-Brussels. But really, please do your job. Do your job. And please be proud of your country.
Well, I'm proud indeed of my country, even though I'm proud to be Ukrainian, even though I am ethnic Greek. And I believe this country is enriched by smaller groups, smaller ethnic groups, religious groups, different languages. So it's really our advantage. It's not a division. That's why we're in September. The 1st of September is the day when our kids are going to school. And I was proud to listen to the anthem of Ukraine, and this first grade people were singing it with special patience, with special feelings. So I believe in future of this country, because we've got the from the first grade till those young people who are fighting in Donbass. I mean those in the 19th or 20 years old age. So they changed the country, and the future belongs to them. So I totally agree with you. It's up to us to change the future of this country by involvement of the civil society into the governance. We believe that we need not just to control the governance, not just to control the president, parliament, and other organizations, but to work closely with them to work out the drafts of decision. It seems to me that our civil society is 1.5 years behind the government in a lot of things. Our organization prepared the strategy of regaining Crimea. There are other organizations who are working on the reform agenda. And they are much more eager to change this country than those who get to the power and enjoy the benefits of being in power. So I believe that it's possible to change, but with more involvement of civil society, with more involvement of citizens, of simple citizens.
So, as far as I understand, the ministry, the Maidan of Foreign Affairs is not primarily involved with reforms, but what it says on your website educates the public on the current and prospective Ukrainian foreign and national security policy problems, advocates and facilitates wide public. So you are involved in organizing hearings or forums and debates. And what are right now on your opinion, are the primary foreign and national security policy problems right now?
The major foreign and domestic security problem is the matter of trust. Matter of trust towards those who are in the highest office of this country, from the part of the civil society, and the same thing, matter of trust from the other capitals, and especially our friends in Europe and in the United States, in Japan, Canada. Because if you say something, you need to live up to what you're saying. Unfortunately, inconsistent policy of this government is reducing the sphere or reducing the gap where we can do something. So the window of opportunity is still open, but it's closing each and every day.
Yes.
And corruption, one of the most important things that we should do about. Corruption is the most important foreign policy tool of Russia. And it's proved. It has been proved in Ukraine because of the previous government's activities, and it proved even now in Moldova. Could you imagine 900 billion euros disappeared in just one day with no trace to some banks linked to Russia?
Yeah.
It's impossible in every country, but it's possible with heavy involvement of corruption to the highest level of the country. The same thing was in Ukraine. Before Maidan, there was some plans to privatize the strategic assets, Ukrainian strategic assets, and certainly we know this heroic efforts of Minister of Finance to reschedule the debt payment to the foreign companies. And the major burden of this debt is on those companies related to Russia and then to the former Ukrainian President Yanukovych. So by providing loans to Ukraine, which in Moscow was absolutely clear will be stolen by the kleptocratic regime of Yanukovych, but the burden would be on the government of Ukraine. And that's why by providing such a loan, Russia were trying to gain control over Ukraine. So we, in some future, if there was no revolution, in some future we would face such a situation that we have our president, parliament, and other signs of independence and sovereignty, but in reality it could have been controlled from other country. So Maidan changed the history, and actually Maidan was the essence of what is Europe all about. I mean, Maidan was about the values, I would not say European, I would say European civilizational values, not European Union ones. And it was for dignity, it was for freedom. And that's why we're appealing to our Western partners to see and to realize that we need help to withstand such an aggression that we face in Crimea, in Donbass and occupied Crimea. And we need help to change our government, the way how we live, how we govern ourselves, because we deserve better life. We deserve to be with the European civilization to which we belonged for centuries. And unfortunately, because of the Soviet Union and because of the immaturity of political elite in Ukraine for 24 years, we're still somewhere in between, not in Asia, but not, unfortunately, in Europe.
But you know, I think the policy of Putin was to take back Ukraine to like a new Soviet Union. And for a lot of Russian elite, Ukraine is like private property of Russia. Yeah. And that's very important to underline this fact also, that the corruption is a weapon of Russia, as gun, as tank, another one. And you have, I think you have two wars in Ukraine. You have a war in the Donbass, and you have this war against corruption. You cannot win only one. You have to win on the both.
Both sides, yeah.
Yeah. And that's a key point. And I am very, sometimes very surprised about, they want to win those wars or not.
Yeah. Well, we, again, as usually, we don't have enough time, but what are your predictions in the near future? And what are your plans? What are you going to do as Maidan of Foreign Affairs or as an individual in implementing the declarations and the agenda that you have declared as an organization?
As to regard to the predictions or forecasts, certainly the war will be in place, because the war, actually, I mean the real war with army, is just one tool. And there is a strategic goal for Russian Federation, or to be precise, of the Putin's elite or Putin's circle, to subjugate Ukraine, to deny Ukraine's from its future, European future. Putin's plans to regain geopolitical weight needs Ukraine to be on his side, to be controlled by Kremlin. That's why he will use all efforts, all possible mechanisms and tools, from the military aggression, informational aggression, bribery, or he's trying to exploit the weaknesses, the political weaknesses of Ukraine by constitutional changes, to ignite this civil war or civil conflict within Ukraine. Because now it's not a civil war, it's not a civil conflict, it's an aggression. But if we accept constitutional changes in such a form which is now in the parliament, it could open the door to the civil conflict. That's why certainly we will not see the resolvement or resolution of this conflict in the nearest future. I mean, from military point of view, from political point of view, because the one side has not fulfilled its goals. Unfortunately, Ukraine doesn't have such resources to withstand it to the full scale. Certainly, if there is a full-scale invasion, I believe that all citizens will stand up and will fight back against this aggression. But I'm talking about mostly about the strategic in terms of the timeline, in terms of the resources involved in this. Our organization is not going to rest. We got huge plans. One of the plans that I can just open for just for you, we are working out a strategy or idea or concept of the value-based foreign policy, because we believe that it's one of the reasons why we don't have real friends and strategic partners, not on paper but in reality, is because our so-called pragmatic interests were above the values. We were trading, we were sending arms to Syria or to other parts of the world, not so democratic, and that is oppressing other countries. And now we are asking for weapons from our Western partners, who was asking us not to sell these weapons to such terrible places. And that's why if we change the course of our foreign policy, and it will be based on values, and it's not because we want to show someone something. It's because it's up to our nation to live to these values.
Time is up, unfortunately. Yes. Definitely, we would love to have you back in a couple of weeks to share more of what is happening, and especially once there are some results and some different interesting new developments. Our guest today was Alexander Khara, the representative of Maidan of Foreign Affairs. It was United Country UA Tea Time by First Ukraine. Thanks for joining us for a cup of tea.
Olivier Vedrine and Sergey Velichanskiy were working for you in the studio. Stay with us and we will show to you the real Ukraine.
Thank you for being with us. Have a good day and see you soon.